In this session, I'll be explaining chapter 5, that is Footprints Without Feet. And the author of this lesson is H.G. Wells. So children, before I explain the chapter to you, let me give a brief description about the author, that is H.G. Wells. So, the full name of the author is Herbert George Wells. Children, he was born on 21st September 1866 in London, United States. He was basically an English writer, and his contribution in the field of literature, in the field of English literature, is truly remarkable. He has written more than 24 novels, short stories, science fiction, biographies, and he has also written his own autobiography. And children, he was an expert in science fiction, and therefore he was also called as the father of science fiction. And unfortunately, he bid farewell to this world on 13th August 1946. So children, today we are going to read one interesting story that is written by H.G. Wells. Okay, so now let's come to the story. Footprints Without Feet. Children, this is basically a story of a scientist, and the name of the scientist is Griffin. He was a scientist and he was working very hard since a very long time to discover a rare medicine or rare drug through which a man could become invisible. Invisible means transparent. So he wanted to discover that medicine, and later one day he got successful also, and after discovering that medicine, he just swallowed that medicine, he just gulped that medicine, and hence he became invisible. So in this chapter we'll read and find out how he used his invisibility. Did he use his invisibility or he misused his invisibility? So this we are going to read in this chapter. So let's begin with this interesting chapter called Footprints Without Feet. Okay, so children, the story starts with this scientist named Griffin, who was working since a very long time to discover a medicine, and finally he was able to discover it, and then after discovering it, he just swallowed all the medicine, and as a result of which, what happened? He became invisible. His main motto, his objective of life was to discover this medicine, and we'll find out that why he wanted to discover it. So, when he became invisible, he started roaming on the streets of London. But let me tell you that the scientist, being an educated person, since he was a scientist, so definitely he was an educated person. But let me tell you that he was a lawless person. Lawless means a person who does not follow any laws, any rules. And why I am telling this to you is because once what happened, the landlord of Griffin, he was trying to evict him out. The landlord was trying to evict him, means remove him or throw him out of the house. So what Griffin did? He just burned the house. See, that's why I am telling that Griffin was a lawless person. Okay, so once he became invisible, he was just roaming on the streets of London without any clothes. Why without any clothes? Because if he would wear his clothes, if he would wear his jackets, coat, hat or anything else, then the clothes would be visible, and the people would wonder that who is this? It will become quite messy. That is why he was not wearing any clothes. He removed all his clothes, and he was moving on the streets of London without any food and without any money. Yes, he was also not having any money. But let me tell you that in London he was moving, and that also in January. It's very cold in January, but he was also feeling cold, but what to do? He couldn't wear any clothes. So what happened? For the first time when he was noticed by a person, how he was noticed? He just stepped in some mud, and when he just stepped on that mud, his footprints got visible. And then suddenly two boys, they saw the imprints of the foot. They wondered that means how is it possible? There is no man, we cannot see a man, but still the footprints are there. So those boys, they started following Griffin. They followed not actually the Griffin, actually the footprints, the imprints of his foots. So they tried to follow him, but they could not catch hold of Griffin, because after some times the imprints of the foot, they got disappeared. So they were not able to catch Griffin. So finally Griffin was able to escape from those two boys. Then after being chased from those two boys, he was finally invisible again, and he was again moving on the streets of London. So it was very cold. He was feeling very cold because he was naked. He wanted some warmth because it was the time of January. So he decided that he'll go into a store in order to keep himself warm. So he finally entered a store, and as he entered the store, it was the time to close the store. So all the shopkeepers as well as the customers, they were not there, and the store was locked, and he was locked inside the store. So since nobody was there, he became visible again. How he became visible again? By wearing sufficient warm clothes. He wore a coat, he wore a hat, shoes, everything he wore, and then became visible again. And since he was very hungry, so he went in the kitchen and ate some cold meat and a cup of coffee. So after eating cold meat and coffee, he went to the grocery store, and there he ate some sweets and wine. And then he very peacefully, he just slept on the pile of quilts that were kept there. But next morning, he was quite late. He couldn't wake up on time. So what happened? It was time to open the store, and when the guards, they opened the store, they saw that a man was sleeping in the quilts. And they also saw that this man is wearing the clothes of our store, and that also without paying for it. And so when they saw, they approached towards him, and then he started running. And the guards, the assistants, they started chasing him. Since he was visible, he was wearing so many clothes. So what he did? He started taking off all the clothes one by one. And soon he was invisible again. And again he was walking on the streets of London. That also naked, that is without clothes, without money, without food. Then it was really very cold. It was the time of January, and he was not able to cope up with the winters because chilling winds were blowing. It was very bitter. The weather was extremely bad. So he decided that again he would go into a store and he would try a different clothing. And he thought that he'll wear the clothes like that of a theatrical world. So he selected a shop. He approached a shop that was appropriate for him, and he went inside the shop. And then what he purchased? He purchased bandages. He covered his face with bandages, and he also put a false nose and side whiskers and a hat. And since he was not having any money, so he attacked the shopkeeper and robbed him. He robbed all the money and he ran away. He was looking like a stranger. Then he thought that it is very difficult to stay in London because London is so crowded and people can easily catch me. I can easily be caught by the cops. So he decided that he'll go to a nearby village. And the name of that village was Iping. Iping was the name of the village. So he just booked 2 tickets. He booked the tickets of hotel room, and then he went to that village by train. So after reaching that village, when he entered the hotel, everybody was quite astonished. They were quite shocked to see the appearance of Griffin, because he was having bandages on his face, having a false nose, hat, and means his body was not visible. It was covered with clothes and bandages. So the landlady, actually the landlord, and the name of the landlord was Mrs. Hall. She found it very strange, but still she went towards him, and she wanted to be friendly with Mr. Griffin. She wanted to talk. She wanted to have a friendly talk, but Griffin avoided the talk, and he also told that due to some injury he has covered his face. Then the landlady, she told okay. She accepted his whatever he told, and then he was left all alone. He also told that please leave me alone, please do not disturb me, please do not disturb in my work, because I have come here in order to get some peace, in order to get some calmness. I am very much disturbed, so please, it's my humble request to everybody that do not disturb me by continuously talking to me. So everybody told, they understood, they tried to understand his situation, and they told that okay, we'll not disturb you. And then he was staying in that hotel room for the days he had booked the hotel. But soon his money was over, his cash was over, he was not having any cash at hand. So so the landlady, she came towards him, approached him, and she asked that what about the payment. Then he just behaved as if a check was he was waiting for a check, but there was no check. But he was just trying to make fool that a check was coming, so they could just wait for 1 day or 2. So the landlady, she was quite a good lady, so she understood his situation, and she told that okay, we can wait for 1 or 2. Now something strange happened. The couple, that is the landlord and the landlady, they were sleeping in their room when they heard some noise that was coming from the study room. So they quickly came down to see that what was the matter, and when they came down, they heard the sound of money. The money was taken. The sound of money was quite audible. So what happened? The landlord, he took a metal rod in his hand, and he just very quickly he opened the door, and he said surrendered, as if he thought that he caught a thief. But when he entered the room, there was no thief. Nobody was there, but the money was not there in the desk. So the landlord and the landlady, they were just searching that where was the thief, where was the robber. They searched everywhere, below the desk, behind the curtains, up on the chimney, but they could not find anybody. This was a very strange incident, that how come the noise is coming but nobody is there in the room. So it was really an extraordinary thing that happened for that day. Then they finally went to sleep since they could not find anybody. Then what happened? The next morning they woke up very early, and when they woke up early, they saw that the door of the guest room where Mr. Griffin was living, he was staying, that was opened. So they were very curious to know that why the door is opened, because Griffin, he never opened his door, and he always became angry when people used to enter his room. So she was quite curious and excited to know that what has happened, why the door is opened. So she decided that she would investigate the matter, and then she suddenly entered the room, and when she along with her husband, they entered the room, there was nobody, and the bed sheets, they were quite cold, which indicated that Griffin woke up quite early. They also saw the bandages that Griffin used to cover his face, that was also lying on the bed. And then suddenly something happened. The chair that was there in the room, that came closer to the landlord and the landlady, and nobody was there, and the chair started coming towards them. And the couple was really astonished to see that scene. And that chair, it suddenly hit the leg of Mrs. Hall. She was surprised, she was shocked that how is it possible? Nobody is there in the room and still the chair is coming on its own and it hit the lady on the leg. And then what happened? That chair that went towards the door and it smashed the door. The door was shut and it was locked and the couple was locked inside the room. And then she was very scared because that chair was of her mother, and she thought that the mother would be really sad because the mother was no more, and she thought that mother would really be sad that the chair of her mother had hit Mrs. Hall. And so she became so scared that she started thinking that there were some spirits in the room, some ghosts were there inside the room. This was the scene of that day. And then the news of Bulgari at the landlord house, it spread across people, it reached the people. And then everybody, they started suspecting the strange scientist. And the suspicion grew stronger when that scientist, he produced money, he gave money to the landlord because he was staying in the hotel. And the suspicion grew stronger just because earlier he told that he was not having cash at hand at that moment and he was waiting for the check to arrive, and suddenly he was able to produce the money. So everybody was suspecting him, and so the village constable, he was called. So before the village constable could come and investigate the matter, Mrs. Hall, she couldn't control herself, she couldn't resist herself. She immediately went to the room where this Griffin, the strange scientist, was staying, and she very straightforwardly, she asked him that how come you came from that room? In that room, nobody was there. It was empty, and how is it possible that you came from that room? And that also from a room that was locked. We also came there and saw that nobody was there. Then how is it possible that you came from that room? And what you did with my furniture and everything that was in the room. So when she asked this question to this angry, crazy scientist, his anger grew. He became very angry and he shouted at her that, "Do you know with whom you are talking? I'll show you who am I." Then what happened? He started removing his bandages from the face, from his head, and then he removed his fake nose, his fake hair and spectacles, and then within minutes a man without head was standing, and everybody was shocked. They were rather scared. The people who were at the bar, they were scared to see a man without head. And then it was in minutes, within minutes and within seconds, he was able to do this. And then the village constable, he also came, and he was also quite shocked. He was astonished that he has come there to arrest a man without head. He was also quite scared because nobody has seen a man without head, and it was looking that some magical powers, like evil powers, were there. But what to do? It was his duty. He was bound, he was compelled to perform the duty because the state magistrate, he had ordered him that he had to arrest the robber, and it does not matter to him whether the robber is without head or with head. So he had to arrest that robber. And as he threw more and more of his clothes, he became more and more invisible. And then finally he removed his shirt, and then he was completely invisible. And everybody was struggling hard, especially the constable, since they got orders from the magistrate in order to catch that robber. So he was really struggling very hard to catch that Griffin, to catch that robber. And the people who were there at the bar, they were also helping the constables in order to catch him. But so everybody was helping them, everybody was helping the constable. So this invisible man, this Griffin, he came from anywhere and he used to just push the people, he used to hit the people, and nobody was able to do anything. They were just helpless. So the constable, he just tried for the last time to catch hold of the scientist, catch hold of that crazy stranger. But what happened? He was not able to do so, and then the invisible man, he just pushed him, he just knocked him unconscious, and he was not able to catch him. Everybody told that catch him, hold him, but he was not able to come under anybody's control, and finally he freed himself from that place, he freed himself from the people, and he was not caught by anybody. So this was the story of Griffin, the scientist, who made himself invisible. Children, since he developed a rare medicine or a drug, he could have used that medicine, he could have made use of it in a more positive way. He could have helped people, he could have helped everybody around, but he misused him. He did not use it in a proper manner. So this was the story of Griffin, who was very crazy and a lawless person who did not follow any rules, any laws, anything. So this was the story all about Griffin. Thank you.